just being really like an advocate for conversation design and explaining to people sometimes like what I do, the importance of my role.
Let's get started. Hi, Elaine. Thank you so much for attending this interview today. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yes, hello.
Yeah, so we met at the meetup. It's like a talk event of a conversational designer last week.
Design panel for, I guess it was like conversation design and how human-computer interaction is changing. So I think that was the title, like the future of human computer interaction.
So the reason why I found you, so 1 year ago, I was in New York and then I explored conversational designers YouTube. And then I found your YouTube channel and then I followed your social media. And then not only Instagram, you are constantly like writing, article, posting on the Medium. It's fascinating. That's why, oh my gosh, she's amazing. Someday I want to meet her in person. And then finally I could meet you.
Yes, I'm so glad we finally made it happen. I also have, once you followed me, I followed you back, and I've also been very invested in like what you're doing.
Elaine, please imagine there are many audience to looking forward to listening your story today. So, could you please introduce yourself, your name, and then what do you do in San Francisco?
Yes, so my name is Elaine Anzaldo. I'm a conversation designer, and I've been working as a conversation designer at Meta for about the past 2.5 years. Prior to that, I was working at a startup as a conversation designer, and then did a lot of different projects actually before I pivoted into design. I was more of like data annotation, metadata curation, which is like a lot of work related to knowledge graph or like speech recognition systems. So I've been in voice technology for quite some time, but officially as a designer, I've only been working as like three years. And what I do in the Bay, I moved here 6 years ago, and this is kind of where I started my career. Yeah, so I have a BS in biological sciences. I was mostly focused on cell biology. That was my interest. My university did not have like concentration, so it was purely out of interest that I was like taking more like cell biology classes. And I also worked as a research assistant in 2 different labs. One was like a stem cell related lab, and then another one was OBGYN. So my project actually combined the research efforts of 2 different labs related to, I guess, like problems in uterus and development, and how the after effects could like affect like the fetus. So I was specifically working on projects related to that.
I see. Yeah, having a researcher background it's great to become transferred to designer because I would say product designer, interaction designer, we have to observe the user's attitude and behavior, right?
Yeah, I like the similarity of science into UX design because unlike other maybe fine arts specializations, UX and generally product design are very focused on being objective. So like learning more about usability or really trying to like test your own hypothesis and assumptions, which we do in science a lot. So I definitely like bring that into my work. I never feel like personally attached to my work because I'm always like, well, the outcome should decide like what we actually want to do, or, I'm kind of thinking in that way, like even my opinion could be wrong and that's okay.
I see. I love that. Yeah, I would love to know your kind of daily routine, or as a conversational designer, what kind of a process do you work on?
Yeah, I would say conversation design is like a very broad umbrella term. So like off the bat, what I consider conversation design is probably not someone else's version of conversation design. So to put it into context, like I am more a product designer because I really focus on like end-to-end like interactions or flows, and I'm in the design process every step of the way for a certain product or feature, which could be different than other conversation designers who might only focus on like NLU, like train the model on like what users want to say, or some people might focus more on like the tail end of the experience, actually writing dialogues or sourcing dialogues from large language models as we do it today, or potentially just conversation analysis. There are people who do one of these things or many of these things or all of these things. For me specifically, because I work on a specific like consumer product that you can go out and buy in stores today, my process is a little bit different because I'm trying to like marry like business requirements, marketing requirements, like my own like product requirements, and like making sure that every base is covered, that I'm exploring every angle in my work. And I've been helping out on projects, I guess, like every part of the process. Sometimes I'm working on a project where I am the subject matter expert, so I can come in and kind of help out at any step of the journey, whether it's like, oh, we need testing stimuli for this research study that we're going to conduct with like external users. I can do that. I can also craft like interaction design flows, so kind of really showing broadly like what happens if the user decides not to do that or to do this other action. And then I also I guess like do some dialogue writing. So if you use any like voice assistant, sometimes you hear like actual words. Like if you talk to Siri, Siri might answer you back. Conversation designers generally own that part of the experience. So I sometimes work on that, or mostly because I work at such a large company, it's like I'm in constant communication with everyone I work with all the time. So my daily routine is very, I would say, like chaotic a little bit. It's more flexible so that I can make progress. Maybe I need like heads down time for like mapping out something in Figma. I could do that one half of the day. The other half could be devoted just to meetings where I advocate for my feature, or I let inform other people of like how their feature interacts with mine. Really helpful to like know your own domain, know your space, and know what users are actually doing. So usually at this point in my career, like I'm coming in and sharing like, well, we learned this from the past 3 years of working on it, so we know users will usually respond this way. I would recommend we go this path, or just being really like an advocate for conversation design and explaining to people sometimes like what I do, the importance of my role. So I could do many things in one day.
I see. Interesting. So, for example, I am currently working at a small startup as a product manager / UX designer, because as a startup, working at startup, like we have to wear several hats, right? And then many people, so they have misunderstanding, or just like idea, designer is only visual, especially it's Japanese culture. Many people are like thinking, so design equal like fashion design or graphic design for like fashion magazine. But it's not correct. So as a designer working at small startup, so have to listen stakeholders' needs and pain point, and then document. And then also we have to understand end user's pain point, document. And then like we can see and then analyze and then prioritize. Okay, this is at least we have to fix. And then like define MVP, and then checking documentation, sharing the team, make sure we are on the same page, and then low-fi prototype, testing, and then if okay, middle-fi prototype, and if something wrong, we have to go back and iteration, and then lastly we have to conduct testing, usability testing, and then finally we can deliver even one screen. Maybe this is the kind of typical 2 weeks sprint. So you have experience working at small startup and then now big corporate. Yes. So, and you said your role is more product designer, so kind of similar style or more like a different style?
I would say that I really am able to contribute more to product requirements at this company than my previous company. At my previous company, there were several different product owners who were like really thinking ahead, like how can we continue to keep our moat for our product? How can we make sure that we are like actually engaging with our customers the right way? Like there were a lot of people already focused on that. So a lot of work at my previous startup was really just like the tangible design. Not to say that I did not contribute to product requirements or like I wasn't taking into consideration like technical constraints or anything. It was just I was like the founding designer. So when we say like conversation design, usually a lot of people don't expect that we would do like visual design as well. But I was doing that. Like I was doing all of the design hats at my startup. So I already had my hands full when it came to like just design. So, and then also that was like my entry level role. I was like very junior. So I didn't actually seek out to increase my scope that much at that role because I was still new to the space. I was learning a lot and I really wanted to make sure that I was like executing right before I started like taking on more strategy or vision work. So by the time I was left, I felt more comfortable and like more confident to start giving like more opinions and start informing like the product. But yeah, when I started the job, it was a very different experience. Yeah, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, you need this in 2 days. I got you. Like, and then I would like, push out like a couple screens.
I see. Maybe you are already asked by junior people, like something like, oh, please mentor to me like that. And then many junior designers who want to get position, they tend to focus on only like the skill of Figma, how like beautiful design. But in reality, for example, my previous position was like a corporate, like bank. We don't use super flashy visual, right? So if you want to give some advice to junior people, what skill or what software, practicing software tool do you want to recommend?
This is a good question. I think in general, beginning conversation designers usually end up in roles where they will be working with an in-house developer platform for a conversational AI product. So like the safest option to learn is VoiceFlow. VoiceFlow is still like the leading gold standard for conversation design tools. So, kind of how like UX, UI design has Figma, conversation design is VoiceFlow. So that would be like the software that I would recommend. But in terms of like junior designer, what things you should know, you should definitely just I would say like it's good to keep like a healthy, like fresh mind in evaluating competitor experiences. And I say that because like sometimes you might get too in love with your work that you stopped remembering like there are other tools out there that could be fulfilling the same job as your product or your idea. So I think it's always good to like any software interaction that you have in a day, like try to take some notes as to like what you liked or didn't like. And I think if you keep like a diary or journal of those interactions, you could start going deeper into like why I didn't like it and like who does it better, what I would take from this experience, how I would adopt it into my own. Was it something about like the CTA was not large enough, so it's an accessibility concern, or is it maybe like the copy was not productive? I didn't understand what I was reading. I didn't know what I opted into. So just keeping like a daily journal of that, I think as a junior designer is super important, like regardless of which design path you do.
I see. Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Okay, next question. What kind of a child were you?
What kind of child?
Yeah, like energetic, like sports, or love reading or drawing, or I'm so curious about
It's gonna
you.
be so revealing. I was such a shy child. I was very sheltered growing up, and I didn't have any family in this country. So I'm American, but my parents are Mexican, and all of my family lives in Mexico. So I actually grew up like having family very far away and having like that interaction be very rare. So I was very shy, and I had like a very small group of friends, mostly neighbors that I like would talk to. I was also very nerdy because both of my parents were literature professors. Like they were hardcore, like both of them have PhDs. So there were always books at home. So I really loved reading. And if you asked me at 5 years old, like what I wanted to do in the future, my answer was always, I want to be a writer. And that's because I was just influenced by like literature and writing, and storytelling is something that I have enjoyed since a small age. And I still kind of keep that passion today. I love to write. I also love stories in general. So I'm a big fan of movies.
I see. And then, so entire your life always in the West Coast.
So I moved around a bit. My parents being professors, they went where the job took them, where they would have better like tenure possibilities. So from Seattle, I went to Irvine. From Irvine, we went to Moscow, Idaho. So I was very near to the Canadian border. And then from Idaho, we moved to the Midwest in Missouri. And then in Missouri is where I had like my formative years. So like my high school and my university and post-grad was in Missouri.
I see. And then you came back to California State.
California, yeah. But Northern California, which is like a different experience.
I see. How do you like living in San Francisco area?
I really like it. I think what helps is the diversity of people here. Like you don't feel singled out. Something that happened a lot while I was growing up is like in Idaho, I would be like the only Mexican American girl in my entire class and the entire school. So it becomes very like you get a lot of attention, even though you're not doing anything different than anyone else. You just look a little different. And like people notice your habits, and it's like I didn't really like being like the center of attention. So I love that about California in general, regardless of like where you are in California. I feel like it's a little bit more relaxed on that side. Like people like kind of let you breathe a little bit more. They give you your independence and freedom. There's also like a lot of food here.
Yeah.
Which is like in Missouri, like we would have to drive 2 hours away just to go to like a South Indian restaurant, and it's not even the state that we wanted. So like they have like Tamil restaurants in St. Louis, but like it's not the same as like food from like a Telugu, which is where my husband is from. So just those things. It's so easy to like grocery shop here, like get different. I mean, it's really we're kind of spoiled in that way.
I see. Yeah. In Los Angeles and also in San Francisco, I cannot stop to buy like a taco by truck. Amazing taco. Mexican food is awesome. Yeah. Okay, so next question. I can imagine. So you are designer and then you are writer. since you were little, you love reading, writing, so naturally, like I assume you are combined now. So tell us about your passion, hobby recently, whatever.
Yeah. I think in general, I really love storytelling. So something that I do a lot is like I read Medium like almost every day. I signed up to get like daily notifications so that it suggests articles for me to read. Sometimes they're design related, sometimes they're more just like personal like opinion pieces. So I really like seeing how other people explain their story, because something that really interests me and that I hope to do one day is like write my own book. A lot of people have like speculated that like, oh, I want to write my own book about conversation design. That's not really my goal. I actually would love to do fiction writing. I find fiction writing a lot more fulfilling, more challenging, because it's so subjective. Like you cannot, I mean, someone's personal like autobiography someone might not like, but you know, it's so subjective. Like some people might learn things from them. It's like there's no like, you cannot go to a fiction book and say like, oh, you quoted the wrong source, so therefore your opinion is like wrong. Or there's no way to like view a fiction book other than being timeless, because it encapsulates like a specific moment or a specific feeling. So generally you can go back and reread it and it will have different meanings each time. So that's what I really like. At the beginning of the year, I was trying to like set a new goal for myself to like read 20 books in 2024. We'll see, because it's like August and I think I've only read like 6 or 7.
Great.
But yeah, I still need to hit the books more. Yeah.
I see. Amazing. Do you do journaling?
Ooh, do I do journaling? I don't. But actually, that's what I use my social media for. Because like if I have a thought that I want to save, or like a specific feeling, reaction to something, that news, I do post about it on Instagram, or like I'll take it as inspiration to write like a full-length blog post on my Medium. So not really, but I do keep track of like certain thoughts that keep reoccurring, or certain questions, especially when I get asked a lot of questions from mentees and I always have like the same reaction. Then I'm like, that's my next article, because so many people are asking about it.
Yeah. So I am a big believer of journaling, because especially like not digital, like actual paper and pen. Because of course many people said, journaling, iPhone is enough, but iPhone seduce us to check social media or super distraction. So during writing, I don't want to see my iPhone, bye bye, and then like writing. For example, every morning, like self-reflection, at least 3 good things from yesterday. For example, I got up at 6. Yes, I cook veggie. Yes, and I run 1 kilometer. Yes. Oh, I am a good person. Like that. Yeah, and then like 3 good things. Whichever. Like today's to-do list. For example, I bought wrong stuff. I need to return Amazon. Okay, and like work or interview Elaine, like that. And then we can prioritize. Oh, this is, I have to finish in the morning, like that. And then after I finish, okay, yes, this is a super like pleasure for me.
Product manager, like that's the product manager. I do not have that level of discipline. Like it's very hard for me to like even consistently work out. So the way that I do it is like I need external accountability for something like that. So I do outsource some things, kind of like how you're saying, like you only follow internal accountability. Sometimes that works for me. Like if I'm trying to learn like a new language, it needs to be me motivating myself. But for something like working out, I need to go to like group fitness classes. Otherwise, I know I won't do it. Yeah.
I see. Are you learning some new language?
Oh, I was for some time. So I was trying to learn Telugu. So I was taking like classes with a tutor. Since then, it's been some time since I've had some practice. So I need to like go back and like start my regime again. But I would do it the same way that you are saying. Like I would write a specific goal of like what I need that day so that I can keep the practice up. Something that really helps for me is like making sure that I'm still watching like movies in the language that I'm learning. And recently there's not been like that great releases. So that's also why I've like had to take a break.
Okay, so Elaine, you speak English and Spanish.
It's Telugu.
Telugu.
South.
I see. Telugu is not familiar for like Asian Japanese. So could you please explain a little bit?
So Telugu is one of the Dravidian languages in India. So I know a lot of people are familiar with Hindi. Hindi is a Sanskrit-based language, which is a different language family. So in South India, there's like Dravidian language family. So there's like Tamil, Kannada, Telugu. So these are kind of developed separately. So a lot of their vocabulary is completely different than something you might hear in Hindi. There are some influences here and there, but generally, like the grammatical structure, I would say, is not too far away from Japanese. I mean, Japanese is a little bit more complex in terms of like the full, I guess, like grammar. Telugu is a little bit like I think it's pretty much easier in terms of like there's like a limited set of language rules. Otherwise, it's very flexible. Yeah, there's like more vowel and consonant sounds than in English. I think there's like double the amount, no, like 5 times the amount of vowel sounds than in Spanish. So as someone who is like natively a Spanish speaker, that was my first language, I find it very hard to learn Telugu because there's like different consonant sounds that I'm not used to. There's also like short and long vowels, which this concept does not exist in Spanish. So a little bit like that, I would say. There's no like real like mainstream or like popular culture example for Telugu, so I don't really have like a reference to give, but just the states that it's spoken in is Andhra Pradesh and also Telangana.
I see. Thank you. Interesting. So do you have some friends who can speak Telugu?
My husband is Telugu.
That's why. Naturally.
Yeah, for our wedding, like I wanted to be able to at least say certain things and like
so sweet.
be able to respond to family.
I see. Okay, last question, Elaine. Tell us about your dream in 5 years and 10 years. Your career or your private, whatever.
Yeah, I think for my career in 5 years, I'd really love to branch into more product design. So I don't really see myself as like only being focused and specialized in conversation design. So I'm hoping within like the next 5 years, I can like find my footing in like general like UX or product design, gain seniority in that and be able to like contribute to a lot of the conversations that are happening around like AI and designing for AI. I say this just because I advocate so much for conversation design in my current day-to-day role, but I feel like my reach is limited by keeping the title of conversation designer. A lot of people think it's like this niche, like very like separate thing. So I would love to kind of like marry together like all of my passions in design and be able to like influence some of the, you know, thought leadership happening there. And then next 10 years, I don't know, like hopefully I would like calm down a little bit from tech and maybe move into some other field, adjacent field, and maybe write a book.
Yes.
Yeah, in general for like mentorship, my end goal is to completely like automate myself, or not automate, replace myself rather. I would love for someone else to like take on this space of like advocacy, resources, education for junior conversation designers. I mean, there are other people who are doing it already, but like the angle that I bring to it is a little bit different. So I'd love for someone else to like, you know, carry on the legacy.
I see. Beautiful. Okay, Elaine, thank you so much for your time. It's amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate getting the chance to talk to you.
3 key takeaways from my conversation with Elaine. 1. As a conversation designer, Elaine would like to share these tips with junior designers. Go hands-on with voice flow, because voice flow is still a popular conversation design flow software. So, in usual designers, we use Figma to make a prototype or practicing prototype, and then conversation designer, so we can practice to use voice flow. And next, when using software, some software, for example, whatever, so some mobile app, for even Slack. So you can find the point of why you like using and why you don't like using it, like pros and cons. This observation is great practice as a UX designer and researcher. Then we can dig deeper into it. This is Elaine's recommendation to practice. I like this idea because as designers, we have to explain to our stakeholders our pain points and why we need to improve. Second, Elaine said her role currently is more UX designer, not just conversational design flow. Her career goal is more become UX design. She feels that AI will be used in software as a matter of course in the future. And when she thinks about how to solve product problems as a designer, she feels that conversation design alone has its limitations. So she wants to become more like comprehensive UX designer. Third, she has loved reading and writing since childhood. Currently, she writes articles about conversation design. And she has a habit, it's journaling. I also have habit of journaling. As a designer or entrepreneurs, I believe we had better to do journaling. I think had better to have why, always why, like curiosity. And we must always step on that why and deep digging. Why? Instead of falling in love with the technology, we should fall in love with the problem. This is my 3 key takeaway from Elaine. Thank you so much for listening our episode. Hopefully you can listen next episode too. Bye bye.